Hello and welcome to your final Algebra 1 class. This is it, our last class of the summer course. So today we're going to continue to talk about rate of change, but we're actually going to talk about the slope. Now, a slope can be defined in a graph as, so if I have a linear function, and this is the line for our linear function, and let's say the slope would be this point. A slope on a graph is just a number that indicates how steep the graph is. And this is used a lot in like measuring pyramids or engineers who work on bridges and they want to see how steep the hill is that will hold the structure. And the slope formula is actually given to us by this formula right here. Now m means slope. I don't know why they don't use the letter s. I guess it's because there's a whole bunch of other formulas that start with s. And it's given to us by the formula y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So remember that a slope is basically what we call rise over run. And what rise over run means is y divided by x. So for example, if let's say we have a graph and our ordered pair is 3 and 2, 1, 2, 3, and positive 2. So we'll say that this is 3 and 2. And our other is negative 2 and 2. And we'll say that this is negative 2 and 2. And let's say that that's the graph. Now, rise over run means y over x, means that I'm going to subtract my y coordinates. I'm going to subtract my y coordinates and I am going to subtract my x coordinates and divide. So that's what rise over run means. Now let's explain what I'm trying to say. So we're going to say rate of change. And we're going to subtract, let's say 2 minus negative 2. And let me write that a little better. 2 minus negative 2 over 3 minus negative 2. So 2 minus negative 2 is 4, because remember we add that, and 3 minus negative 2 is 5. So that means that the rate of change is 4 over 5, which means that that's how steep that graph is. Now this is what rise over run means. But we don't necessarily have to graph a function in order to determine the slope. We can just use the slope formula, which is what we're going to do now. Now what x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2 and y sub 2 mean is just the order in which I decide to write or identify each ordered pair. This is just like anything we do in math or when we write, we're going from left to right. On a graph, it doesn't really matter, but at least here we go from left to right. So that means that we're going to say 3, 5, and negative 2, 4. 3 is going to be my x sub 1. 5 is going to be my y sub 1. Negative 2 is going to be my x sub 2. And 4 is going to be my y sub 2. So what we are going to do is just plug them into our formula. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And what I'm going to do is instead of writing y sub 2, I'm going to say 4. And instead of saying y sub 1, I'm going to say 5. And instead of saying x sub 2, I'm going to say negative 2. And instead of saying x sub 1, I say 3. So 4 minus 5 is negative 1. And negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. And these two negatives cancel out, so the slope is positive 1/5. Now I could divide that, but because it's a fraction, it's going to give me a decimal number, and it really doesn't make a difference, so I'll leave it expressed. If I could divide the fraction, I would, but in this case, it makes no difference. Now what if we have dreaded fractions? What do we have to calculate a slope with fraction coordinates? Well, it's simple. All you got to do is remember your fraction rules. So the same thing, this is x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And again, instead of writing our formula, which we have here, I'm just going to go ahead and substitute the numbers. So y sub 2 is going to be 4 over 3. Y sub 1 is going to be 2/3. x sub 2 is going to be 3 over 2, and y sub 1 is going to be 1/2. And I'm just going to subtract. Now, lucky for me, all of my denominators are the same, so I'm just going to pass on my denominator, which is 4 minus 2 is 2, so this would be 2/3. And 3 minus 1 is 2, so that would actually be 2 over 2. So now I have this compound fraction of 2/3 and 2 over 2. So how do I figure that out? Well, remember, whenever we're dividing fractions, we're actually multiplying by the reciprocal. So that means that I'm going to take this bottom fraction and I'm going to flip it over, but it's 2 over 2, so it's not really going to make a difference. But either way, we say 2/3 times 2 over 2, and then we just, multiply. Now remember that when we're multiplying fractions, if I can cross cancel, I will, which in this case I can. 2 and 2 cross cancel, that would be 1, and this would also be 1. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 1 is 3, so my slope is 2/3. And that's it, guys. That's how you calculate your slope. So feel free, and I'm actually going to step out of the way. Feel free to pause and rewind the video as many times as you need to. Along with this exercise, I'm going to upload some practice problems for you to work on. And that's our last video lesson for this summer course. Please remember that this Thursday, you're going to send me all of the work from this week. And Friday is your test. So stay safe, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.